What gets included in a level 4 screening file? Well, the first thing that gets included are your child's ability test scores. Again, the Naglieri test is administered to first graders, and the cognitive abilities test is administered to grades 2 through 6. We also look at SOL scores, GBERS, which are the Gifted Behavior Rating Scale, which is completed by the classroom teacher during the screening committee, progress reports, and additional information that is added to the file by classroom teachers, by me, the advanced academic resource teacher, and also by parents. Included in all of this will be your referral form that you filled out indicating that you're interested in level 4 placement, as well as the parent questionnaire. The parent questionnaire is really important because it gives you an opportunity to brag about what it is that your child can do. There are very few places where you can do that, and this is definitely one of those ones that you want to fill out and include in your form. The guidelines for work samples. All pages have to be single-sided, regular 8.5 by 11 printer-sized paper. I do not recommend glossy paper. It needs to be a matte finish. It just shows up better. Pages have to be two-dimensional, meaning we cannot accept any 3D work samples. If you have a three-dimensional work sample, for example, a Lego display, a creation that they made out of popsicle sticks, something that they built using 3x5 cards, you need to take photographs of these items and include the photographs. Multiple pages have to be copied so that you have more than one page on your 8.5 by 11 sheet. So for example, there are settings on printers where you can have multiple pages printed up on one side of paper. So for example, I can put in 2 pages single-sided, and then I can make it so that they sit side by side on one piece of paper. If you submit original work samples, these work samples do not come back to you. They are kept. So if there's something that's very precious to you, like something they did when they were in preschool, you definitely want to take a photograph of that and submit it, or you want to scan it in order to submit it. But I also will take copies of things, okay, because these work samples cannot be returned. On your work samples, it's very, very helpful to submit a brief sentence or two that explains to the screening committee why and what they should notice about these work samples. So I have some examples of some work samples showcasing why they're good examples and also why they're not so good examples. Here's an example from a second grade student showing that they understand the math concepts and that they're able to support their answer in their written response. Here's an example of a work sample that is not a good example. Simply showing that your child can do simple multiplication, division, addition, subtraction problems isn't a good enough work sample for the screening committee. This is what we're teaching the students. We want to see what their thinking is. And this, unfortunately, doesn't really show us their greater thinking about the math. Here's a good example of a work sample. This student was doing an encapsulation, which is one of our critical and creative thinking lesson strategies. And they were encapsulating a character in a story. The only thing is, this work sample could be made even better by having a brief sentence or two explaining what this work sample is showing. Someone who's observing this file and going through it is not going to understand what this work sample is really showing unless there's a brief write-up by the parent explaining what this project was. Here's another example of a work sample that's not really a good work sample. Again, this is like a spelling test, word study, where students are using vocabulary words in their writing sentences. In order to make this a more powerful work sample, if those students took those words and wrote a persuasive essay or wrote a story showing their creativity, that would be an even more powerful work sample. Here's a good work sample for a student who's in Spanish immersion. They used analogies in Spanish to talk about the different parts of a flower. And I don't read Spanish, so I'm not really quite sure exactly what it says. But another good thing to do with this, whether it's the German immersion or just a labeling project, is definitely to have an explanation of what it is that the child did, having that brief 1 or 2 sentences. Here's an example of a work sample that's not a good example to put into the screening file. Yes, it's great that they got 100% on labeling the parts of the flower, but something stronger would be showing how they designed an experiment, or how they invented an engineering solution for a problem that they may have had. Here's a social studies project in which 3rd grader created hieroglyphics that goes with their ancient Egypt studies, and it was to teach toddlers how to read. This is a really great example. Again, having that brief write-up is really important. Another example of a not great work sample is this one right here, where it just is multiple choice test talking about the levels of government. Work samples don't have to come from the different curriculum areas. Work samples can also be things like this. This is an example of a comic strip. Okay. And you'll notice down here towards the bottom of the comic strip, it has a couple of sentences written showing and explaining what this comic strip is. It says, these are examples of the comic strip that this child works on during his free time. He has a cast of characters and he creates scenes of their everyday lives. This is another good example of a work sample. This was done by a student who created the 4 ways of being smart. So we have musical smart. Looks like animal smart. Okay. Here's another example of a work sample. It says the student created a comic entitled Chocolate with her spelling words for the week. This shows how your child can go above and beyond what is asked. I'm sure that the assignment was to creatively use your spelling words, and this is how this child took that direction. Okay. So you're going to submit work samples. Parents are allowed to submit 4 work samples, and they're also allowed 5 extra pieces of paper to show, for example, awards, letters of commendation, etc. Fairfax County Public School teachers are not allowed to write letters of recommendation. We input our information about your child during the gifted behavior rating scale during the screening. Okay. If you have any questions about the whole process in finding your child eligible, I recommend going to the Fairfax County Public Schools Advanced Academics website, and I'll get back to that to show you how to do that. Again, you're going to go to Fairfax County website, click Academics and Programs, Advanced Academics, and this website has a wealth of information. One of the best places to look, and where sometimes I have to get even my questions answered, is the link that's called Frequently Asked Questions. You can get it here under the resources, or you can come over here to the quick links and scroll down to resources. By going to the Frequently Asked Questions, a lot of your questions that you're going to have about the screening and identification process is going to be found right here under Screening, Testing, and Identification. And you can just look for your question that you may have about the whole screening process. Okay. One of the other important places that you can look is within this link right here. You will see a thing that's called Parent Information Packet. If you click the Parent Information Packet, it opens up a document that shows all the steps and all the information about advanced academics, as well as the screening process and any forms that you may need for the screening process. Okay.